Hello everyone. Ted Simpson here, certified Ross Instructor, and we are going crazy here on Friday, doing something I don't think I've done this in a good long time. I have my camera set up on the other side. I figured with today's painting you might want to see a little bit more of my hand touching the canvas. So, oh my gosh, this is so weird. Well, look what we got here, a 12 by 16 setup portrait style, and I have just under half the canvas painted black. Well, the deal is with that is I taught a class not too long ago. It was a seascape here, and this is where the water was. I had an extra canvas, and it's all kind of stained, and I just didn't want to put that out for one of my students to use, so I thought I would save it for myself. I've got my liquid clear here in a 2-inch brush. Ooh, that was too much. I can't stress enough here, when you are putting liquid clear on a canvas here, less is more, okay? Bob said that if you get a jar of liquid clear, it should last you for years, and my gosh, I think he's right. I think Bob's right. Let's just assume it, right? Well, in this case here, he was really right. I always put out a little too much for my students here. It makes it a little faster to cover the canvas, the black parts there, but it's really a waste at home here if you just go loading it on, because that is way too much. That'll cause your paint to just want to start sliding down. It'll give you a Salvador Dali painting after a few days. Everything just sort of melts. So I'm going to take my paper towel and give it a good wipe. Normally I say a once over is good enough, but man, I'm going to give it a twice over at least. Maybe thrice. Alright, that's good. Wipe out the excess paint. Now it's hard for me to see the little monitor on my camera here too. On the top, as you may have guessed, I'm going to use a little bit of the liquid white. Now, however little paint you use on a full canvas, you need even less when you're only doing about half the thing here, half the canvas. And now I don't have to follow it exactly there. If a little bit gets over the border between the white and the black, it's not a big deal. Ooh, look at that, I'm painting my easel here. My easel's getting several layers of, oop, that was a little much. Several layers of paint up on it here. Once every couple of years or so, I'll come at it with a scraper and scrape off all that extra paint. Maybe give it a squirt of spray paint. But that's not today. We're going to be doing something, well, I don't really know. I did this painting not too long ago in the landscape style. I don't think I filmed it though. I don't even know where the painting is. Could have sold or... yeah, you know, I think it did sell. So we need another version here for a classroom. So let's give this a try. That way, if I have any extra canvas for my seascapes, I can use them for my landscapes. Pretty nice, huh? So, let's see what we got. A little bit, oh my gosh, I gotta turn everything this way now, don't I? White, phthalo blue, some mountain mixture, sap green, dark sienna, Van Dyke brown, yellow, yellow, yellow. That's cad yellow, Indian yellow, yellow ochre. Get some paint up on the brush here for our sky. And how much of this are we going to do? How bold do we want it? Man, I am feeling so awkward standing right in front of my canvas. Normally teaching, I stand like I normally do, off to the side. Now I get to see everything straight on. Maybe that'll help me. least give me a new perspective. Literally. Gosh, I feel my hand is different. My shoulder feels weird. I'm not sure I'm going to do this too often. So, a little bit of blue up there. I'm going to wipe my paint off my brush, and I'm just going to work it from the bottom up. Just take out some of those brush marks and smooth stuff out here. I think I'm going to have some clouds here, so I don't need to overload the sky. But maybe, I'm going to take a little bit of that mountain mixture and some of that phthalo blue, just make a darker blue. Ooh, look at that. That adds something there, darkens it a little bit. Oh, you can use black, you can use Prussian blue. I think I went over this in a recent video about darkening the corners here, adding some interest here with the various colors. Okay, clean off that brush. When I mean clean it off, I'm just giving it a quick scrub, get most of that paint off. I think my liquid white is a little heavy today. You can see, like when I hit it, a little bit of that liquid white shows from when I'm picking some up. See what I mean? That happens. That happens. You just have to adjust and do a little bit different techniques, a little bit more softening, softer touches. Now, I have been practicing my clouds here with my 1-inch brush, and I thought I would give it another go here. Picking up some paint, tapping, and we're just going to do some little tappy clouds here. Getting the color off my brush quickly so that it stays nice and bright. See that? Just making an interesting top edge here. That's the important bit. It's just the nice bright top. Now with my 2-inch brush, I'm going to tickle the bottom, just soften it a little bit, and then very lightly crisscross. And then I do that a step again. Load some color up into the brush, do a little bit of tapping. If it doesn't come off bright, probably not enough paint in the brush. There it goes. Simple, simple, simple. Now, let's play around here. I'm going to take my fan brush, load some color, and maybe we'll have a little zinger right there. A couple of distant things way off there. I don't even know if we're going to see these at the end, but you know what? Maybe we will. Soften it just a hair. If I go over these too many times, it'll just disappear. There we go. We've got some texture up there. In our clouds, gives them that puffy, fluffy appearance. Let's go ahead and keep it going. So, get some of that paint off there. Wipe that on a paper towel. Let's mix up a color here. I'm going to take a bit of my sap green, my mountain color, touch of the Van Dyke brown, and once again, I put out too much blue. I should have a contest here of have you guys guess how much blue that I waste per painting. Winner gets all the paint. We'll have to see about that. So, there's some nice dark color. mostly mixed. And I better clean this fan brush too. Now, before going into the paint thinner, it's always a good idea to get most of the paint off the brush. And for this, I just pinch the excess color away, a couple back and forths. Then I can go into the paint thinner. Keeps the thinner a little less chunkage, a little less solid paint in your paint thinner. Makes it a little easier to clean the thinner. Takes a little less time for all the solids to settle down. Makes your brushes a little cleaner when you clean them. Okay, well, I tell you, if this was a live stream here, I would let you guys choose what brush I use, what shaped trees you want, smileys or frownies. But since it's a video, I get to choose. So now, you're going to see things from a little bit different perspective here. Tap down. All I want is a skinny little line. Deep, 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 deep. Load plenty of color in the brush. Since I'm right-handed, handle is over to the right and down, so I'm using the corner of the brush to tap. Doot. And the bristles need to bend. That's what makes the paint come off. Doot. See that? Tap, tap. And then I just start working from the center out. You start to get that little zigzag pattern going, alternating from left to right. But if you have a little bit too much of the center there, there's nothing wrong with just tapping a little in to make it a little fuller. And we're just making some big old dark trees here. I can see my brush a little bit shaggy. Gives it a raggedy appearance to those branches. Sometimes that's what you want. We just want this tree nice and dark. Let's make a couple more. I wasn't super pleased with that one. Has a little bit of a funkiness right there. I do get some funky trees now and again. Ooh. I blame me standing off the opposite side here. I am just not used to this. Let's make this one a little taller. Doink. Tapping. And sometimes when I'm teaching, I go a bit slower than my normal speed here. So let's make a couple of trees at full speed. There we go. Maybe we want a little background tree in here. Don't even have to do the whole thing. Just tap in a basic shape. And we'll separate them when we do the highlights. Okay. Maybe another one right here. And tap, 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 tap. Ooh boy, this is a raggedy tree. I do like these occasionally here. When your brushes get a little worn, really changes up the shape of your trees. Okay. And let me wipe some of that excess paint off. And I am going to take a moment here and clean this 1-inch brush. Like I said, you want to wipe off the excess first. Give it a little stir. Now I go into my paint thinner here. Wipe off the excess, and I brought my beater bucket over to the other side here, so we go. So, I'm going to have some bushes in my scene here today, so I'm tapping down, turning the brush. See that? I tap down, create this little rounded corner, turn that rounded corner up so that I can push up and make a nice bushy leafy thing here. Don't slide. It's not going to look right if you slide it. A little bit of color. Oh, let's say one right there. All sorts of stuff. Boy, it happens fast, doesn't it? Now, I'm going to take a little bit more of the dark sienna and brown into that same old brush. And let's see here. I'm just gonna wipe. Get some color out there. Doesn't really matter. Got some undercolor here, and this is just the sap green, some brown, whatever you had left on it. Mountain mix, green, brown, doesn't really matter too much. And we just want a thin coat, okay? Go over it a couple of times and then just call it good. Very little color there. It is fairly transparent, so if you're not sure, touch your finger to it. If a little bit is there on your fingertip, you've got enough, trust me. Trust me. Nice and dark down here. Now, what do we have here? We've got all sorts of bushes and trees. Let's highlight them. I'm just going to use a different fan brush here. I don't feel like cleaning the brush. So, whoa! I forgot how full my jar of liquid white was. That was too much. So I guess I am going to have to just clean the brush anyway. Yikes. It's Friday. It's a wacky day. So, a little bit of liquid white going into my cad yellow, thinning it down. Boy, that was a lot of liquid white still up in my brush here. And I'm going to tint it with some sap green, maybe a touch of that phthalo blue just to darken it down a little bit. That phthalo blue makes a deeper green automatically. So, let's see here. Maybe this tree off in the back here has a little bit of highlight. Still a little too bright. Tap, 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 tap. Just put some little highlights on these trees. Not really thinking about it too much. Couple little tappers. It's a little bit darker down here, so it doesn't need much. That's it. Look at that. I am going to have to clean that paint thinner. Good for me. I have a big delivery of paint thinner coming today, so I can afford to let that get a little dirty. Now, I'm going to take that same 1-inch brush here, and I'm going to load my brush full of this highlight color. Get some of that yellow in there. Come over here and tint it. Maybe a little Indian yellow. Just want plenty of color up in the brush here. And very light touch. It's a thin paint, loaded pretty heavy, so you only need a light touch to get this bush effect. Bring that one down in front, perhaps. Okay. Now, if it's getting a little too dark, I had a little bit of color on my brush already, all that dark shadowy color. Sometimes you just got to clean the brush. Let's go into mostly Indian yellow this time. Gotta get some back here. Not really thinking about it too much. Putting some little things in here, covering the base of the tree. Some of them are brighter, some of them are darker. Doesn't really matter. Because we're just going to be covering a lot of it up anyway. And let's go ahead and do that now. I'm taking, for my base color here, the 2 browns. Pull them out flat as I can get it. Wipe my knife clean and getting a little roll of paint. Let's try to figure out a cabin here. And something like, how much of this are we going to cover? How big do we want this cabin to be? We can really change the perspective in a heartbeat here. And it really helps to have a clean, even roll of color. You know, you don't want it like all fat on one side and skinny on the other. You want it to be relatively even. Makes it a little more consistent. Boy, this is kind of like a big old A-frame cabin, isn't it? Now, I think my cabin's going to be facing this way, so I'll pull this side of the eave in. Now, you can notice here, always makes your job harder when you're using kind of a cheap canvas. Do you see how this, look at how floppity that is. That can work against you sometimes, and you'll have to work it and try to figure out how to make that work for you. So, it's also kind of tough when you have a bunch of thin paint in there. So, once I get my edge figured out here, we scrape off the excess paint. Let's see here. Let's have our little roof line. It's going to come down sort of like that. Kind of figure out where it's going to be. You can do this more than once here. Scrape off the excess paint before I go and block in all that color. So maybe we're going to have our back of our cabin right about there. So that allows me to scrape off all this inner stuff here. Okay, once in a while I got to gather everything up and spread it out again, cutting off my roll of paint, and that allows me to just smear down this dark. Just get that nice dark color blocked in. We're not worrying about it too much. It just needs to exist. You know, you're trying to figure out just the basic shape here and getting some color, just some dark color in there. Allows you to see the roof line, allows you to see the front, the side. It really starts to come alive when we do the highlights. So we're just trying to figure out and darken things first. There we go. We're not really committed yet. We can play around with the size and shape of the cabin. We make it a little bigger than it needs to be, just so we can fill it in later. All right, so thinking on that, I think, taking a look here, that roof needs to come down a bit further. And that's easy enough to do. You just draw it on down. Figure out that back side there. Something like that. Now that makes a little more sense. Okay. Looking at that, I see here there's a little bit of smeared paint, so it's not completely clean line. I can just pull that in. That cleans that line up a little bit. I don't even know if that's really needed, because we can, whatever we don't like, we're gonna put some bushes on that side anyway and really push that cabin back into the underbrush here. So I think that's good enough for now. So let us see. Let us get a highlight color. Some dark sienna and white. Kind of streaky. I like that. And I think, let's see here. Gotta straighten out my paper towel. Been wiping a lot of paint on it. I need to either turn it over or turn it inside out. And now I can't even figure out the side. There it is. There we go. So, thinking here with a small roll of color, let's make a cabin here that looks really, really slatted. Just touching and pulling in. Touching and pulling to the side, I guess I should say. Pulling into the center of the cabin is what I meant to say. And let's just keep it going here. Touch and pull, touch and pull, touch and pull. All these little vertical looks here. You might have to load the knife a couple of times in order to get the full coverage, something like that. Now Bob took a brush on occasion here, and very lightly I'm matching the angle of my eave, and I'm just going to drop the brush. Just to give it a little smeared look. And you know, I don't like it. I didn't like that a bit. Too much brown or too thin a paint. I'm going to strengthen this one up. I think that's what I did when I did my covered bridge a week or so ago. And it turned out a little better that way. You might want to check out that video. There it is. I like that a little better. Now I'm going to add a little bit of brown into that same highlight color, just so that this slats back here are a little bit darker. Maybe, let's try it just with a knife, clean knife. Very lightly. Soften that down a little. I'm a little scared to do that again, so I'm just going to leave those ones alone. Now, if I were to take my small knife here, maybe I can clean these up just a little bit. Get those a little higher where they need to be. And I'm going to take a little bit of the white and some phthalo blue and a little bit of the brown to dull this down. The white, blue, and brown. Nice. I'm going to do something I haven't done in a long time. We're going to try to make some shingles here with the blue color this time. So let's take our knife right up to the edge here. A deep cleansing breath and just tap. See that? Tap, 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 tappity tap, 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 tap. Right on down. Get another little roll of paint. I'm going to line it up with the back side here and maybe get a little bit more. There we go. Now if I were to add a little bit of white, maybe we can get a little zinger of light here on some of these here. Let's see. Just enough here to set that off. And maybe get a little bit of this on the other side. Little highlight on the top, right up there at the peak. Good deal. Now I'm going to take a little bit of that pure brown, just plain old dark Van Dyke brown. Gotta have a door. And maybe this door is a little offset here, just not exactly in the center. There it is. It's offset in the center, so we could put a little window. There it is. Now, an incredibly small amount of the liquid white. Cut in a little line there. Across the top, across the side. This one here has a little bit on the bottom and the side. Just to outline that window a little bit. Nice little cabin. This is an old cabin though. It's an old cabin, so we don't really see a path or anything like that. Just going to hit a little highlight on those shingles there. What I'm going to do is we're just going to drop in some grass. A little bit of grass. Let's see about this. Boy, that is just an odd angle. So, loading that brush up full of color, tapping. This grass just grows right on up to the cabin. Maybe look at how it just pushes that cabin down into the scene. This color shows up so bright on a dark canvas. So before doing too much else, I'm gonna clean my brush here. Not even clean my brush. Pick up the tiniest amount on a new brush, a little bit of the titanium white, not very much. And we gotta have some water here. So maybe our water, is it a pond, is it a lake, is it a river? We'll figure that out. Press in, pull down. Very, very little color. It's going to pick up some of that undercolor that we put there. If you need to strengthen it up, oop, it happens quick. I added just a touch of my highlight color into it. Look how bright that is. I'm going to try to move some of that color. There we go. I get it started, then I pull it down. Very, very lightly. Brush sideways. And look at that. Look at that pond. Look at that swampy. I don't know if it's swampy. It's something. Let's just extend this out just a little bit. Working our way down to the water. There we go. Now, do I have any more brown? Am I actually going to have to get out the tube again? I might have to. Maybe not. Let's take a little roll of the Van Dyke brown here. I'm just going to create a little bit of dirt here. Over the grass a touch, over the reflections a touch. Pulling to the left as I move to the right. And some places here, pull out a little further. You don't want it all exactly the same. Variation is going to be good for us here. Something like that. Now a little bit of our highlight color. And this is an incredibly light touch. Just want this brown to pull off its own highlight here. Find the right angle here and just let this drift. Variations of color in your highlight, put variations right there on the scene. Look at that. Now a little bit of this grass color here. Maybe sneak a little bit over the rocks here and there. Oh, that's just growing right on down, isn't it? See that? A little bit. Right up on the tips of the bristles. There we are. Now to really set it into place, take a little bit of the liquid white and titanium white mixed together. Get a roll of that mixture on your knife. And we got to try to keep this waterline looking level. Just bending the blade. Go. Give that water a little bit of movement. And you know, I take my fan brush, I can smooth some of that little roughness out of it. A little bit of movement in the water. Look at that. What a fun little painting. I think we could do this in a classroom setting. What do you think? Does it need to be brighter? I don't know. You get to change things and make it the way that you like it when you're doing your painting. I hope you give this one a try, and I hope you have a wonderful weekend. Happy Friday, everyone. I will see you in the next video.